Just as little Yu was settling in, the priest was startled awake by a weird noise. He hurriedly grabbed a flashlight and dashed out of the room, ready to give the radio. Suddenly, a strange noise came from little Yu's room, but she was still rolling in dreamland. Off he chased in another direction when a boy slapped his shoulder, startling him. He turned and found the boy at the stairs bottom. The priest followed him to the cemetery to understand. After a bit of searching, he finally spotted the little boy he had once saved, but to his surprise, the boy suddenly spat out a spicy strip, making the priest jump back 2 steps. Right after, he fell into a pre-dug wooden pit. Bang! The coffin lid slammed shut. As the camera panned up, the priest's name was boldly displayed in the tombstone, while little Yu suddenly woke up and began checking each room with an oil lamp. Unaware of the dark shadow slowly creeping up behind her, little Yu cautiously stepped out of the guest room and accidentally wandered into the prayer room, where several nuns were engaged in a mud. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared again, creeping along the wall and soon finding its way into the mirror behind little Yu. The moment she turned around, everything clicked into the nuns bizarrely vanished, and little Yu, terrified out of her wits, immediately bolted. But at this very moment, she coincidentally heard her father calling for help. Little Yu dashed towards the sound, heading for the cemetery. When she called for the priest, all the bells in the graveyard started jingling, making it impossible to determine who was real and lamenting who was the bigger fool. Little Yu had no choice but to close her eyes and meditate, finally pinpointing where the priest was. Confirming her dad was right under her feet, little Yu quickly grabbed an iron cane nearby. While down below, the priest tried to ring the bell, but was met with utter silence. He sensed something behind, but giant stone hands grabbed him, making the priest yell, "Hurry up!" Just then, the things behind him vanished as well. He hurriedly laid down some planks to climb out, only to find a few books had appeared in the coffin, thinking to himself they might be useful. He decided to take them back to the monastery, and by dawn, the two returned to last night's room. Since the priest couldn't go in, he let little Yu investigate alone. Stepping into the yard, she saw a nun flash by the second-floor window and immediately chased her. Arriving at the church, she saw the nun entering. Watching her kneel before the gravel praying, little Yu thought about giving her a little poke, only to be yanked away by another arriving nun who said it was forbidden to disturb others praying, as it was their traditional ritual. After that, she led little Yu away. Meanwhile, Omu finally returned to the village, running into a tavern to fill up his energy. But he discovered the bartender had covered the mirrors with a white cloth. The bartender told him a child had just died in the village, and in the same tragic way. Omu was confused, but the bartender said it was because of the monastery, and the 2 priests he brought might just end up as corpses too. This struck a chord with Omu, his mind racing. What would he do now? Meanwhile, the priest couldn't get into the monastery, so he had to study the 2 excavated books outside, which told about an unnamed Valak. She was once a famous countess, secretly harboring a terrifying demon, but before he finished reading, the iron door slammed shut. It seemed the monastery curfew had arrived. On the other side, the elder nun was telling little Yu about the monastery's history, revealing it was built as a castle but he had gathered a ton of sorcery books to resurrect a terrible demon, and just as the count's resurrection was about to succeed, the church finally arrived. The church members slayed the demon as it was about to be born, pouring Jesus' blood into the crevices. This was how they sealed the demon back in hell, and later, the church converted the place into a monastery. The nuns prayed day and night to keep it suppressed, but due to the war, a shell landed right in the monastery. Somehow, it triggered the seal, leading to bizarre events happening. Hearing this, little Yu suddenly recalled the nun she saw last night. She mentioned that the nun seemed far from holy, and the nun responded, saying that wasn't one of their own, but merely a ghost dressed like one. All the ghost wanted was to take out everyone, and her appearance might mean the gates of hell had swung wide. But just as she was about to reveal a more important secret, another nun suddenly interrupted their chat. As it was nearly curfew, little Yu, being a confined nun, couldn't possibly stay here. She meant little Yu should leave, but the gate was locked, so she was placed in the bedroom of the murdered girl. The screen switched back to the priest, who was studying the artifacts, when suddenly the headmaster's voice interrupted him. She approached the grand stone chair holding a candle, and the headmaster suddenly began rambling nonsensically. The gist was that little Yu was bewitched, and just when the priest was about to clarify what was going on, the headmaster's neck flopped to one side, poof, and she suddenly went silent. Seeing this, the priest assumed she had fallen asleep and gently reached out to wake her, only to realize in the blink of an eye that it was already midnight. Little Yu was jolted awake by another nightmare, sitting up to find there was someone new in the room. Frightened, little Yu hurriedly asked who the person was, but they seemed entirely deaf. Gathering her courage to inch closer, she noticed the beads in their hands suddenly snap. One rolled right to little Yu's feet, but in that instant of looking down, the figure vanished, only to reappear behind her immediately after. Then there came another knock at the door. It swung open by itself. Little Yu slowly turned her head, only to find nothing there. Just a false alarm. Hey, just kidding. With that, little Yu took her candle and wandered aimlessly into the tunnel. Crosses lined both sides, indicating the power of what was suppressed. Soon, she reached the main doors, which opened slowly. A demon disguised as a nun appeared, making little Yu go weak. With that support, she had full, and it seemed keen on her key. The space around her twisted in an instant, lifting little Yu off the ground. The key was about to slip away to the demon when she desperately fought to hold onto it. Just as little Yu was at a loss for what to do, a hand suddenly covered her mouth, feeling like she was locked down, only to be opened by an unseen force.